Morning, everyone. Sam, did you want me to take any particular angle on this, or just a quick overview?
I think just a quick overview would be useful, and then reflecting on, I know we talked about previously, the challenges, but put it in a bit of context.
Okay. Look, this is the half-yearly forecast. As you're well aware, I think more than anybody, it's been a tumultuous 6 months between the economy, Three Waters, the election, and so forth. Where we are now is very much steady as she goes. We are very much in the same sort of position that we would be in a normal peacetime year. We're a little bit lower than we'd like to be on levels of service, but it's still within 2%. And very similar with capital program and budget drawdown for the capital program. Most of our key goals are either on track or just a few percent off, which is sort of margin of error kind of country. I need to put that in perspective. These systems are designed to provide stability and continuity even when things get a bit rough and ready and we don't quite know the score. So Three Waters would be a classic example of that. This is no different to the results we would get at any normal period. So I think while it's steady as she goes, it's a credit to staff that they can do that when things are quite tumultuous. So I'm not going to line by line it. ELT is providing a focus on getting those last few percent around levels of service. Obviously the same around non-key capital projects. They're very close. The aim is to try to finish the year on the mark. So that's very much the sort of 2-minute overview. I'm happy to field questions on specifics though if you want to go into them. Otherwise you'll get more detail around finance and capital in those reports.
That's really useful, Peter. Thank you. I guess the only one for me, just at a really high level, so on page 19 where we've got the ones where we haven't quite met the target, do you kind of anticipate, I mean, I know we've had challenges for a while, but how do you think that will land, or do you have a crystal ball as we get closer to June?
Sorry, I don't have the same page numbering you do. Which one are you looking at?
Well, it's the first page of your report, yeah. So 3.2, where it's just that high-level summary at the very beginning. Oh,
okay. Look, I think exactly what I just said, that we'll make a push for those extra few percent.
Yep.
And that provided, we don't have a plague of locusts, we have a good chance of getting there. And we'll finish the year on target despite all the tumult of the last few months.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Pauline and then Yanni.
Yeah. Thanks, Peter. I've just got a question. It's on page 27 around the LTP. So, under internal activities. Have you got it?
Yeah, I think so. Is it the performance management reporting one?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
In attachment A, yeah. And just saying that referring to the large number of proposed councillor amendments in the LTP.
Thank you.
That many would affect the capital program or level of service if supported, and collectively this high number of amendments would materially reshape the LTP at a late stage if supported, and would put staff under considerable pressure. Is that sounds concerning? And
I think it's a fair assessment because I wrote it.
Yeah.
Based on if they were all approved, but it's very, I think, statistically and historically unlikely that 120 amendments would be approved.
And my other question is, would, if the timing of some of those changed, would that relieve some of the pressure?
It would depend on their materiality. I mean, many of them are small. Some of them are not small.
Yeah.
So it would depend on the materiality whether moving in or out makes a difference.
Okay, thank you.
I guess you've got to balance that too with the appropriate input stages for councillors, because ultimately it's our LTP. So if we haven't had an input mechanism prior to that, then there's always going to be a flood of amendments if we haven't been able to raise them in an appropriate form. So, yeah. Okay, Yanni, and then Aaron.
Yeah, thank you. Had sort of 3 questions. One is around the art gallery, the lack of numbers going through the educational program. Now, a bit like the LTP thing, we had the presentation on levels of service. We raised a number of things in that briefing, and then and then we get the performance report. So I'm just wondering if there's anything we need to pick up for the art gallery. in terms of an LTP amendment to try and address the declining number of people using it. My understanding from the recollection from the LTP discussion was there was a request to how could you do more? Would it require, you know, an extra staff? How could you target some of the schools and probably the lower socioeconomic areas that weren't coming in, for example, was another thing that was raised. So is there anything we should be looking at as part of this performance report, or should we just put that to the LTP?
I guess the question would be, is the remedial action required for this built into the future activity plan?
Yeah.
Or not? Yeah. So that's a question for me to come back with Blair's response to say it's covered already or no, it isn't. And I don't know the answer myself.
Okay, thanks. The second question was around the sports fields.
You want to just, what page are you on, Yanni?
Sorry, I'll just scrolling through. Actually, I'll just go to the third question because I've got that in front of me. That's on page 29.
Oh, yeah.
Transport, improve resident satisfaction with footpath condition, and then the one following, improve resident satisfaction with road condition. The actual is I have no way to measure as there's been no satisfaction surveys, cannot provide a response. And then it goes on, same for the comments. Remedial action, we've changed the way we deliver road repairs as the lack of operational funding is significantly impacting our ability to maintain our existing network. And I'm just trying to sort of get my head around what the remedial action is actually saying in terms of what we're doing. But this is based on the concern that where we should be renewing roads to fix them, we're actually just doing operational repairs, resulting in the road condition not improving.
Yeah, I think it's a really valid question. Lynette, do you want to?
I can answer to that. Thank you, through the chair. The resident satisfaction survey last year, there were some targeted questions added so that we could understand exactly what the residents' concerns with road condition and footpath condition were, and we could look to target them over this year. That hasn't quite been articulated as well as it could have in this report. And we haven't had the new residents survey through to see how effective those have been. So that's the action on us. We are also working hard, and the work that we've put into the LTP, we've been talking a lot about increased renewals and increased budgets for both surfacing, footpaths and generally for renewals in the transport program. So that's all been built into the new draft LTP that you're talking to. So what we will do is look at the.
So can we get a list? Can we get a list of the top? The road renewals. Like, what's the top priority for road renewals? Can we get? So
the list of road renewals, and you've had this through the chair before, regularly is published on the website. So this year's road renewals are on the website and updated regularly.
Sorry, is there like a 5-year or a 10-year program where we can see?
No, it is a much shorter program than that, and it's a program level that we plan, but the detail is much shorter than that because it changes regularly depending on clash detection with other works such as Three Waters works or utilities works that are happening in the road.
Right. So is there any ability for us to see where the complaints are coming from around things like road or footpath condition, and then see where those things fit in terms of priority?
I'll have to, through the chair, I'll have to come back on that one.
Okay. And the third or the second question from me was the regional sports organisation satisfaction with the council's sports services.
What page are you on?
This is on page 27. I was just wondering if we could kind of, the satisfaction is less than 75%. It says below target last year, although we're not told what the below target percentage was. I was just wondering if we could get a memo, or in terms of sports portfolio, I'm happy to meet with staff and just go through what's happening in that space. But I am concerned, given that the winter sports season is coming, that we do make sure that we do have the sports surfaces in as good a shape as we can.
Peter, is that something you can respond to, or?
I can't answer the technicals of the question, but I can circle back and get a response.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yep. Okay. Oh, sorry, Andrew's here. Sorry, I didn't see you come in.
Microphone's on, sorry. I'll come to the front, sitting behind. I could throw Rupert in the box. Be a bit mean. So, as councillors are aware, we've been doing a lot of work with regional sports organisations on the sports field network plan. And they've been quite upfront with us, and that's filtered back from the clubs about where they see, if you like, we need to try and focus our resources to get overall improvements. We're very confident with the in-housing model that we have kicking in on the 1st of July, so it won't hit the winter sports particularly until we get up and running, that we'll be able to accommodate those improvements. They're relatively subtle things around frequencies and focus on the maintenance side, and of course they're very aware of the sports field network plan that's up with our marketing team for its final drafting that all councillors will see very shortly, and that has an alignment to what's in the draft long-term plan around where we look to go in the longer term as well. So we've got a shorter term focus that'll be driven out of Rupert's team once we take over the maintenance, and I won't get into all the detail now, but it's in essence it's about a much sharper focus on that element, those basic elements that the sports are looking for. So yeah.
Thank you. That's really useful. Next, I've got Aaron and then Phil, and I don't know, and Sarah. Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. So mine was sparked by Pauline's comments and questions, because I hadn't looked at it that way. But the LTP process that we've gone through, and I think it was more in depth in the last year than ever I can remember, and so we've walked through the process really well. Were you surprised that there was, given the current economic climate and the so-called cost of living crisis, that there might be 120 additions to the LTP?
I'm not surprised by much around the LTP, but it's
They are not words of comfort.
It's a bigger than usual number by some margin, so I guess that's unusual.
Do you have any idea why that may be? Because I was surprised as well. Do you think the process that we've been through, where we did all of those workshops and all that feedback, didn't work?
No, I don't think it didn't work.
Look, I'm not going to. It was working well.
I'm not going to speculate, except to say, the letter of expectation asked for a joint development process. We've been in a joint development process since July. There's been a lot of time invested, but people obviously feel that they've got something that they want to raise. So it's part of the process to cope with stuff they want to raise.
Yes, yeah. But 120 is a surprisingly high number during a cost of living crisis. You'd agree?
Okay, so next is, thanks Aaron for that. Next we've got Sarah, and Phil's actually happy to move it as opposed to ask questions.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
great. My question's on the water leakage rate. So I'm still really concerned that our pipes are leaking too much, which they are, so we're not meeting our target there. But also our data around the condition of the pipe network. So the last time I saw a map of the city with all of the different colours for sort of level 4 and 5 grade water reticulation was probably 2019 when I looked back through things. And I'm just wondering if we still have that type of data, and what the forward work program is to reduce that leak, and whether we're actually on target to actually decrease the leaks.
The comment does include, I'm sure you know, that the results appear to be basically annual. So there was end of last financial year, and it's promising for end of this financial year.
Yeah.
So I think we can do better than 2019, but whether we're on track for the end of this financial year, that's why they're flagging amber. They're saying we don't know yet.
Yeah.
We won't know until that data comes in June.
So one of the problems with not just having annual data, but having annual data that's in June when we sign off the long-term plan, is that we don't have good information ahead of then to know whether we need additional budget to decrease that leak. Well, we clearly are going to need more budget to decrease the leakage rate, because even under 25% isn't enough. We need it under 20. Mm-hmm. But we don't have the data to inform the long-term plan. So are we able to get some more up-to-date information on the asset condition there, and what's needed to bring that leakage rate down rather than just hold status quo.
Okay, I'll ask Brent so we can come back next time with an asset condition update and also the frequency of the data and what it would cost to make the data more frequent. Obviously, sampling an entire network for where the leaks are is not a small thing.
Yeah.
Currently, they appear to be doing it annually. There might be a cost to doing it, say, biannually. We'll come back to you with options.
Yeah. Or doing it at a time, you know, offset by 6 months, so that the data is 6 months ahead of each annual plan rather than at the same time, because that allows budgeting to take place.
End of financial year is not ideal.
No, it's not.
But when it lands precisely at the wrong time to do your planning.
Yeah.
So,
and if we could see the forward work plan that allows us to sort of renew and upgrade those, upgrade them so that we can...
No, fully understand.
Yeah, thanks.
Probably worth, that's a good point, Sarah. It's probably worth also factoring in that asset management work that the team have presented as well, and then obviously lining in with the infrastructure strategy that we talked about yesterday, because that'll all feed into one thing. But yeah, okay, I think it's fair to say we're doing better than Wellington, but I know it shouldn't be the benchmark. Shouldn't be the benchmark, should it? Okay, so Phil's any other questions?
Just a quick observation, if that's all right.
Yep.
Look, this is the last 6 months of the old LTP. A lot has changed since then, but the new LTP will have tighter levels of service and a more deliverable capital program. I mean, there's been a huge amount of time invested in rescaling that whole capital program over the 10 years. I would anticipate that we'll do better simply by having tighter specs in the next LTP. And also there are changes going on in-house to stabilise and give us a foundation for improvement. So we're probably going to finish the year end roughly where we are now, but we're looking for that extra couple of % and then looking for a lift in the next LTP.
And okay, that's great. I think that people probably don't understand it yet. I mean, the wider public, but the changes to the capital program will be the thing that I think pay
Absolutely.
dividends. Yeah. Now I've got a question from. Oh, no, I haven't got one. I've got one from Aaron, and then we'll move on.
Mine's
Thanks.
on page 30, and it's just around our the measure of the crashes, reduce the number of death and serious injury on the local network, and it appears that the number's tracking that it will be worse rather than better, yet we're spending millions on road safety. Will we do work on working out why they're continuing, or that trend goes that way rather than the other way after spending lots of money?
So that might be a Lynette question as well.
So the question is, will we do work to work out? I mean, because you can shift the deck chairs, but do you save lives? Is essentially the question. If not, why not? Why do it keep happening, and it just seems to happen somewhere else?
Yes, and the other problem with measuring deaths and serious injuries is you can have a particularly bad year, and it makes things look odd. So we're also looking at how we measure over a 5-year rolling average, which we are decreasing. So we've looked at that. So we are looking to change the measure as part of the LTP, or add the measure as part of the LTP, and show more of a 5-year rolling average we've looked at recently, and it is showing that we are decreasing deaths and serious injuries on the network over time. But we have had a particularly bad spike recently. But we will look at it, and we do look at it, and we are trying to address those causes. But it's something we can talk to further at another session.
Because a good stat would be to see how many of the deaths happen are unavoidable deaths, as in they relate to the behaviour of the driver. So no matter what you ever did, you could not stop that behaviour. You know, if someone hits a post at 180k, 160k, that you can't avoid that, no matter how you design much you spend on the road. So it'll be good to see those versus the ones where, all of the cycling deaths I see are down, which is great. And it'll be great that we have a target, that like one of those ones where we've not had one for this many days, and then we aim for 1,000 days and then 2,000 days, because it keeps everyone aware all the time versus the unavoidables.
So through the chair, just to finish that, this measure is quite a coarse measure, but it is the DIA measure, so we are required to have it. So that's why we are looking at some better measures for the LTP that will add to the story and give us a better
That's
story.
great. Good. Yeah, thanks, Lynette. Right, I've got Andre and then Tim, and then we're going to move it on. So, Andre?
Thank you. Further to that, presumably you would have stats on whether when you have invested on safety improvements at a certain intersection, you would then measure the amount of fatalities or accidents at that intersection after the investment has gone on that, rather than talking about figures of where accidents may have happened where there'd been no investment.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
As Lynette says, it's a course measure that needs supplementing to tell the story. Its purpose, and it's not clear from looking at it at all, is to trigger investigation to understand whether this was an infrastructure failure on our part or human error. And it can be either. Yeah. It's not always an infrastructure fail.
Well, my point was there's also
So I don't
one beyond
know.
error as
Stop.
well.
I don't want to debate this particular issue. We've had an answer from Lynette, which I think is really good, and that will take it away. But I think the points you both raised are really relevant. So Tim, and then we're going to move on.
Yeah, just on the positive, I just want to say...
No. Is it a question?
So with regards to the Lincoln, Barrington, Whiteley Ave, where we have recorded there has been no single accident reported since the new setup was put in. Are there other areas that we're looking at, like Tennyson Street, where the locals were very keen on it?
So just come back to the purpose of this paper, though, which is tracking against levels of service.
Yep.
So if you can relate it to that, it is. If not, I just don't want to I don't want to use the questions to prove points if we can today. Be good. Okay, so Phil's going to move that. Melanie, you happy to second it? Any discussion? All in favour? Against? That's carried. Great. Thank you very much, Peter. Yep. Appreciate that. Rightio. Russell. You're up.